Okay, this seems kind of interesting. Ashes of Creation is a PvP game with no PvP. You know what? I'm gonna watch it. It seems kind of dope because whenever I talk about Ashes of Creation, the shills and defenders always tell me, dog, this game isn't for you. It's for hardcore PvP enjoyers. Now, I always have the same answer for this. Well, enjoy your dying game because nobody's a hardcore PvP player except you. But you know what? Maybe this guy would actually shed some light on the entire thing, and maybe there's more to the PvP element that we miss.
Ashes of
It's gonna be
Creation
interesting.
really is a PvP MMO that just doesn't have any PvP. It does, however, have a lot of griefing and
Yeah.
trickery and a whole lot of very,
Absolutely.
I hate to say the word, toxic behavior. And a lot
Ooh, okay. It's crazy. The video literally just started 10 seconds in. I have so much to say about that. Remember the last video that I watched about Ashes? No, 2 videos away from the guy who actually said that griefing was the entire point of Ashes, and this game is all about griefing. This guy hates the game for the exact same reason. Do you see how the fan base always splits? Well, it's not an even split. It's like a 80% split of people who doesn't like open world PvP and the 20 who do. And I'd go even far as to say it's actually lower in practice. Like 20% of people is a very generous estimate of mine. But at the same time, like, yeah, some people do enjoy this crap. So I can't really blame them. It is what it is. But that being said, man, it's crazy how we said the exact opposite. Like the exact opposite. And I have so much more things to say. I'm just gonna wait for him to speak his mind, and then I'm gonna add on top of that.
lot of people are confusing this sort of behavior with actual PvP.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, oh, if you don't like it,
Facts.
go back to this game, you baby.
Oh my god, I haven't pre-watched this. I haven't pre-watched it. I swear to god I haven't pre-watched this. Oh, this is crazy. You see how almost everyone says the same thing that I have? And I get so much shit for it in the comments, dude. Like, so many people dislike bomb my videos, and I get that. Even though it kind of happens less recently because of how the YouTube algorithm functions. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I got these comments all the time. All the time. It's insane. It's like they have no brain. They can't think for themselves. They're actual zombies that just constantly want to fiend and prey on others. It's insane. Like, they're unhinged. You can't help them. And this is so true. People think, even the guy that I watched 2 videos ago said, everything is content. People are content. This was such a disgusting statement. I hated that because that's how a degenerate streamer think. I don't like that mentality. Like, I don't. And I'm not calling anyone out. If you enjoy this, then sure, you do you, boo-boo. But at the same time, you need to realize that people such as myself who have an actual job or, God forbid, a life and a family, they're not gonna play this game. They're not gonna prey on others. They don't like that. They like MMOs for the social aspect. And you can argue that the PvP is somewhat social, I guess, because you can make alliances and stuff, but this never works in practice. That's why PvP-based MMO never work and never stood the test of time, except for like Eve and Albion, which have a completely different framework, and they're just completely different games. I mean, I know that people love to compare Ashes to Arc Raiders. Bro, like, don't do that. Don't do that, okay? They're not even remotely close. They're completely different games. The fact that Arc Raiders has like some sort of a PvE element is because the nature of the game, but it mostly focuses about PvP, not PvE. Ash is supposed to be different. MMOs are different. MMORPGs, sorry, they're different, okay? You can't compare the two. You just can't.
Or some other low IQ nonsense like that. Unfortunately, that is what is going to happen unless something changes. I have been playing this game
It
now
won't change.
for almost 300 hours. I would be lying to you if I said that I do not enjoy this game, because I really do enjoy this game. I like it a lot.
Interesting.
But I would also be lying.
Okay, this is good to know. This statement actually came from someone who enjoys the game. You know what? Fair enough.
To you if I told you that in those 300 hours, I got a whole lot of good PvP action. Because I have not gotten any good PvP in those 300 hours. I can tell you what I
So what do you enjoy? That's all the game has to offer. Okay, I don't know. This guy's kind of confusing me.
have gotten, however. I have gotten people trying to trick me into flagging in situations that are not good for me. I have gotten people trying to gank me
I get
while I'm
that.
leveling
Oh, I
up.
get that. Okay, so basically he's a PvP enjoyer that just don't like the PvP in Ashes. Okay, that's fair. That's actually a fair point. I like that. I like this guy. This is a good video. I love that.
Beyond 10, I had level 25. He's coming.
And that's why I always say, sorry for pausing constantly. I don't know what's happening with my brain. I just have so many things to say, and I'm like an idiot. I can't focus. Basically, I love the fact that this guy enjoys PvP and still talk negatively about the game. Well, not like super negative, but, you know, he still speaks his mind. I appreciate him like 10 times more because everyone just constantly shill for this game. And I know that they hate it. They just want to be on good terms with like Steven and the Ashes development team because in the future they think this game is about to blow up and they want to ride that wave. Nah, I'm saying fuck all that. Like, I don't care. I couldn't care less. It's crazy, and it's nice and so refreshing to hear someone who actually likes PvP say the complete opposite.
Down to the leveling zones and trying to kill people. Not me in particular, but just everybody over there. I have had people trying to bait me into flagging and getting killed by guards. I've had people trying to bait me into going corrupt so that I lose my gear if I do get killed.
Absolutely.
And a lot more. But that's just a quick summary of what the PvP in this game is. It is a system that is so needlessly complicated and makes so little sense and goes against everything that is the MMO PvP norm that players just simply do not understand it. And those that do understand it understand how to abuse it and use it to their advantage.
Perfect analysis. Actually, perfect analysis. I love this video, man. This is great. I like that. I mean, he's absolutely right about every single thing he just said. People will always try to min-max grief when possible. You need to realize whenever a potential to grief exists, people will abuse it. Always. Remember when classic World of Warcraft came out and you had Black Lotus. I played Herbalist at the time. You can gather... you know what? I'm assuming you played WoW. In case you haven't played World of Warcraft, okay? You could have gathering professions. Now, if you took Herbalist, which is basically the guy who picks flower off the ground, there was a special flower at the end game called Black Lotus. Now, Black Lotuses spawn in 1 hour intervals, always, okay? It's not randomized or anything like that, as far as I remember from back in the day. I think they changed that. And basically what people have done is they spawn camp the Black Lotus location with bots, and they kill their own character on top of the Black Lotus. And now, when the Black Lotus spawn, they could have seen that from their ghost vision as a corpse. And what they did is instantly log in with a character that was already ready on the Black Lotus and just picked it up. You had bots farming Black Lotuses and completely shattering the current market in the auction house. It was so horrendous. Blizzard have fixed that though. They have. So I will give Blizzard like kudos for that, for sure.
If your game needs this overly complex PvP system with varying levels of conditions and
it was
rules,
just an example to show you, like, guys, they will always do that.
Or lack of structure is most likely the problem. And this game, much like a lot of the now dead MMORPGs that have come and gone, is also completely devoid of structure, while also proclaiming to be a PvP.
Oh, but it needs to be devoid of structure. This is a sandbox MMO. You create your own experience. Come on, type that in the comments. Type that in the comments right now. Please do. Man, I hate that argument. It's so weird. When people think about sandbox, it just means, oh, the developers give you tools and that's it. There's no structure. Like, do whatever the hell you want. Like, dog, that's not how it works. Like, that's not how a good sandbox game is. Look at Dune. Dune died instantly because of that. Like, instantly. You need to give players a certain structure, but the amount of freedom does need to be higher, okay? That's basically what sandbox mean. You still need to have shit to do inside of the game that makes sense and makes fun. And you still need to prevent abuses and glitches and bugs and all that mechanics. You know, something that can lead to very large griefing sessions. Like, you need to prevent that. It doesn't mean that, oh, sandbox, like, do whatever the hell you want. No, that's not it.
PvP game. There is
at least not in a fun way.
Very wicked twist of irony in that PvE slop garbage like World of Warcraft, if you are on a PvP server...
Man, I love this guy. He actually hates WoW. Not nice. Mad respect. I love that guy.
Actually has more PvP throughout the entire leveling cycle than this supposed full PvP game. And the reason for that is very simple. World of Warcraft has structure. Games like it have structure. Is World of Warcraft a bad example? I agree. I hate that game. What about ARPGs?
Fair enough.
This game is basically a
Yeah.
better in some ways, worse than other ways version of ARPG.
Well,
But
Steven was a huge ARPGs player, so it kind of makes sense that he modeled this game after it, for sure. He was a hardcore ARPGs player, but as far as I've understood from people, I don't want to speak out of my ass here, because I haven't played ARPGs. I played it, but just for like a small amount of time, it wouldn't even matter. People have told me that ARPGs is way better. That's what I've heard. So I don't want to like put on my own experiences out there, because I don't really have that many.
ARPGs had structure. So in the absence of structure, we now have this absolutely pants-on-head stupid PvP flagging/corruption system. But
Yep.
let me explain what the structure is that games like World of Warcraft or ARPGs or...
You had that system in a game that I really liked back in the day called MU. Now, 99% of you wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but for the 1% who do, like, yeah, you know it used to be way better than this. Because you could have gone on a murder spree, and then you became a murderer, and people could have hunted you down. But as far as I remember, you really didn't drop anything. But I might be mistaken on that. That being said, at the time, these games were kinda semi-acceptable. I think that nowadays, that's less the case. I don't think most people want to play these games anymore. There's a reason why they never stood the test of time. But man, I loved MU. These were the good old days.
Rift or Warhammer Online or Dark Age of Camelot. Let me explain to you what the structure is that those games had. One, they had very clearly defined factions. So Team 1, 2, and 3. All right?
Okay.
So you knew who your friend and foe was. And they also had PvP zones. Zones where you knew if you entered there, there was going to be PvP combat.
That's fair.
Creation, I guess, has PvP zones, but seemingly nobody goes there. And even if they did, it lacks the structure and balance of a faction system, so it becomes a free-for-all. Or it becomes which guild brings the most players, or which guild
guild brings the most sweats and nerds. That's basically it. And whichever guild wins, the other guilds are going to capitulate to their demands, and they're just gonna join this guild, and there's gonna be one giant guild that takes over an entire server. And the funny thing is, it already happened. So yeah, keep that in mind.
The most geared players. Thus again, contributing to how the PvP in Ashes of Creation, the, again, alleged PvP game, actually sucks. But the lack of structure is not the only thing.
Dude, what are they doing? He's circling and pulling the mobs and everyone AoE them down. What is this garbage? What is going on my screen right now?
The Ashes of Creation PvP suck. It sucks because it does not demand from you, the player, skill. Mechanical skill.
Yeah.
Or knowledge.
Absolutely.
I would say that the requirements for PvP or to be successful in PvP in Ashes
having
of
more
Creation,
people.
if and when it does happen, is the following. One,
Absolutely.
you must be very high level. So in this case, 25. Two, you
I
must
sound like
have the
followers.
gear. You could argue that the gear is more important than the level, but I digress. 3, you must have the numbers. 4, you must have the knowledge, and the knowledge kind of equates to all of that. And then 5, at a very distant last, it's skill and coordination. Level and gear.
So basically, the PvP just rewards you for being a sweat rather than actually being good, which is always a bad thing. Because yes, in MMOs, you wanna give rewards to players who invested the most time, for sure. I get that, and that's fair take. But at the same time, skilled players deserve to shine. So you created this really weird system that just rewards all the people and like sweaty nerds that lives in their mother basement that have more time than you to play the game, rather than the actual skilled player that may have a bit less time to actually invest inside of the MMO. So that's really bad. That is extremely bad and unhealthy for the game long term.
Gear or gear and level trump everything in this game. So much to the point where if you are leveling and somebody attacks you, you might as well not even fight back because you're never going to win. It matters so much that if you're fighting somebody, even if you're max level and they're max level, and they have higher tier Radiant gear than you, you also may as well not even fight back because your gear is going to trump everything. Nothing in this game requires or demands any individual skill. Real PvP players do not want to run around and gank lobbies. Real PvP players do not want to win fights because they happen to have the best gear. Real PvP
Absolutely.
players want to win fights because they are better players, because they are more skilled.
Yes, dude, as someone who played PvP games his entire life, I 100% agree with him. You know who would like to do the opposite? Sweaty nerds that suck. And again, I'm using this term way too much in this video, I have to stop, but you need to realize that people who only want to fight using dirty tricks and tactics are trash players that couldn't win you otherwise. And that's why whenever you put them inside of a fair PvP system and inside a constructed arena, they crumble. They don't like the game and they quit. Because they want to cheat, they want to manipulate, they want to lie, and most importantly, they want to grief. They want to prey on the little guy. They much rather take a fight where they are max level and someone is like just starting the game and they would like to gank him and have some memes and, you know, have fun on other players' expense. That's what they want to do. And that's why they will be the only ones who stay in that game until all the noobs have left. And then they will have to prey on each other and they will just quit. Because that's not going to be the case. You need an oppressor and someone to be oppressed for this game to succeed. And whenever you'll run eventually out of people to oppress, the oppressors will just quit. That's it. That's the reality of it. This guy is so spot on every single thing he just said. It's crazy.
They have better coordination, shot calling, organization, strategy, tactics. That is what real PvPers want.
Yes.
People who never got above 2,000 rating in World of Warcraft Arena or RPGs want a PvP system like the PvP system in Ashes of Creation, which is a talentless gear check. And that's it. I don't really get too excited over the idea or notion of stomping on noobs leveling up. I also know
because you're an actual solid functioning human being that has a really great frontal lobe, okay? You are smart, or at the very least, average person. And you actually think in a way that is logical, so you would never understand the type of people who want the exact opposite. Now, I've been a degenerate. I've been on the other side. I know what it's like. I was a kid, right? I was a really garbage kid. I was a troll, a complete troll online. So I know, as someone who grew out of it, what these people think. I can give you insight into their depraved mind. But believe me, brother, you won't survive that.
Don't get too excited over the idea of winning a fight.
And by the way, I ashamed to admit it too, but I used to be like a really weird kid. I used to be like one of the people who like doing all of that garbage. Like using bugs, glitches, all that. I used to do that. But nowadays, thankfully, like I'm out of it.
Because I happen to have
I can contribute to society.
Gear, and the person I'm fighting just hit level 25. But all of this really ties into the hurdle of PvP, the barrier of entry to PvP for Ashes of Creation. If you want to even begin doing any sort of PvP in this game, and I'm not talking about trolling people that are leveling in Oakenbane, picking up people's loot and running away like a coward.
Dude, you can do that. The fact that you can even do that is so weird. So wild to me. How would anyone enjoy that? Like, how?
To try and trick them into going red. No. I'm talking about actual PvP, where high-level players fight high-level players. If you want to get into that, you better be prepared to dedicate hundreds and hundreds of hours into overcoming the level requirement, the gear requirement, and yes,
that's crazy.
Even the financial requirement, because gold is that important in this.
You need so much investment to actually get to the good parts of the PvP. You need to go through this entire slog of just people constantly clowning on you and trying to just trick you into doing some bad things. Just to reach to the fun parts. Nobody's gonna withstand that. No one.
This game. And then, and only then, you can start to practice getting good at PvP in Ashes of Creation.
Crazy.
But it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this bad. But Ashes of Creation PvP is this bad because there's a lack of understanding of players, PvP players in particular, what they want and how they act. And there's a lack of understanding of how these sorts of games work. And it all goes back down to structure. In an open world PvP game where PvP is meant to be organic, what is my motivation as an individual player to go off and stop another guild that's camping or harassing other players on the server? They're not in my guild, so I don't care about them. There's no factions in the game, so again, I don't care about them. If anything, they may be my future enemies, so why would I go back there and help them? If this game had a faction system, I might be inclined to go over there and fight the enemy guild that's camping members of my faction.
He's absolutely right.
But since AOC lacks that structure, I am simply not going to go do that. Any designer who builds their game off the basis of the goodness of the human heart should really pick up a history book and understand how humans actually work.
That's such a great point. Dude, I always say this in my video. I love this guy. This video is incredible. He's right about everything. Why would you ever design a game that's supposed to like be, you know, on the best of the human heart? Like, that's not going to happen. It like happened. Definitely not online, Chief. It's like having an honor system in a shared world country, okay? And I'm using kind of extreme example here, but you know what? It is what it is. Like, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Even in even like my country, it's not going to work. You know, people would steal that shit. So there is no point of doing that. It's just crazy. I don't know why anyone would think this would actually work on the internet.
The other thing that's going to prohibit me from going back there and doing that is, again, the PvP hurdles, the level and the gear requirement. If the gear requirements in this game to do PvP were not so insurmountably high, I might be tempted to risk my time and effort into going back there and fighting the enemy. But that is simply not the case, because PvP in this game is simply a gear check. Gear in any PvP MMO should provide between 10 to 20% of a bonus. That's about it, somewhere in between that. But in Ashes of Creation, the gear advantage is something like, 200 to 300 friggin' percent based on the quality and grade of the equipment. That is a joke. Real PvP players are not going to enjoy that.
Yep.
What about the level requirement, you might ask? And you would be right, because if you are not of the right level, you cannot wear the right grade of gear, so you don't have the gear and the level, therefore you cannot fight. Let me ask you this. If you're a red-blooded PvP lover out there, what is the downside to having a level scaling system that only applies in PvP? What is wrong with having a system where everybody can contribute to a fight and actually participate without being a hindrance?
So that's a really great question. The downside of having level scaling in anywhere, including PvP, is the fact that your gear suddenly doesn't matter and your time investment doesn't matter. Now, there's a good side to that as well, where you can put everyone on the same scale and you can put everyone on the same level. Thus, it contributes to better queue timing. So I would agree with you there. But that being said, I think that a player that have farmed a certain amount of items should deserve to have a little bit of an advantage. But at the same time, I also understand your point. Now, if you would ask me today, what is better for the game, level scaling, or just let everyone duke it out with what they have? I wouldn't know. I guess it would have depended. This is something you need to really test out and see what player response is to this. I'm leaning towards level scaling, even though I hate level scaling in any video game whatsoever. I hate that. But at the same time, I get it. I get it. Definitely not in PvE. In PvE, there's no excuse for level scaling. It's always trash. In PvP, you would have a good argument there. I'm just not really sure what to answer. This is actually a very interesting question he has risen up here, and I would like to hear what you think in the comments. Like, let me know. Level scaling in PvP, is that something you would like? Or you would want everyone to, like, duke it out with what they have? That's interesting.
What is the downside to having level scaling in PvP? I would argue absolutely none, unless you're the type of person who wants to win your PvP fights because you have more gear and you have more levels. In which case, you would probably hate a level scaling system.
Exactly, and this is why I lean more into level scaling, even though it goes against my RPG elements. It does go against that. But sometimes you need to give up immersion for the sake of gameplay, and I think this would be a good way to do so, for sure.
Keep in mind, a level scaling system would not make it 100% fair, because I did say about a 10 to 20% difference in power based on gear, etc. But people still would not like that because they want to be totally dominant based on their gear and their level. But let me share with you a real-life story that happened in Ashes of Creation during a war when I was playing.
The way you could also do that is that you make PvP completely separated from PvE, and you'll have like PvP gear that you buy with tokens that you can only earn from PvPing, and you start as a beginner, you earn more coins, you earn more power, your item level goes up, and it's strictly PvP, and that's how you keep everything fair. That can also be the case, which is kind of the best of both worlds in my opinion.
A war erupted
But I'm just throwing this
between
idea
two
out
of the
there.
cities in the game, Mira and Jova. And I was like, ooh, this sounds exciting. I can't wait to do this. The game started to make sense again, suddenly, because my town was a faction fighting the other town that was a faction. I knew who my friend and foe was. The game suddenly had structure, and PvP was allowed without corruption. This was good. But then I observed something in global chat, and people were saying, if you are under 20, hide inside the city. Stay inside the city. Stay inside the city. Basically, stop playing the game if you are under level 20. Because players under level 20 are going to be cannon fodder that instantly get killed and contribute to the war score of the war effort. So
They're
if
plague
you're
teams
level
for the whales.
15 or 12 and you're dying and over and over and over again, you are being farmed for points, and those points are going to help the other team win. So the reason why you, under level 20, regular person that has a life and has something to do, the reason why you cannot participate in this war is because this game does not respect you or your time, and because it has no level scaling, and because level and gear are God in this game.
True. 100% facts right there. And also, this gatekeeping is going to kill the game, because you'll have no influx of new players. And eventually, all players are gonna just bled dry, right? I mean, it is what it is. You're gonna start bleeding players, eventually leading to the game having nobody playing it. And that would be detrimental to the downfall of Ashes. And this is something that I always said, but it's really good hearing this comes from a devout PvP player. Because now people can understand the perspective better. Because I'm a huge PvP player, but usually not in MMOs. I don't play MMOs for the PvP, I only play for the PvE. But it's really good hearing this from a PvP player perspective that actually plays it in MMOs. That's great.
And because level and gear are God in this game,
people understand it better.
You are not allowed to play. You have to go sit in the walls and hide like a little baby until the war is over, and then you are allowed to go play.
Absolutely. And you're putting people at the mercy of degenerate sweats that do not care about them. That's the problem. The player has no agency on his fate. He cannot decide what he's going to do. And you can say, oh, you can overcome things and people would protect you as you farm 10 bear asses. That's not going to happen, Chief. It's just not going to happen. The people at the top will be too busy fighting each other, and you will be just caught in between the clashes, and you'll just end up dying on both sides. It wouldn't matter. So it's not fun for any one of you. It's only fun for the people at the top.
So after hearing this, do you think that this is honestly a good system? That this is something that PvP players would want? Do you think people that came here with the idea of doing PvP are going to be happy that in this, again, alleged PvP game, because they are not max level with max gear, they have to hide inside of city walls for an hour or two until the war ends?
Crazy.
Even ignoring what the PvP players would want. You as a developer, you as somebody selling a product, do you think it's good business that when these wars happen, it's going to encourage your lower level player base, which is going to be the majority of your player base, by the way, based on time restrictions in the modern world, that something that's
absolutely, absolutely, this is such a great point as well. I mean, you need to realize you can't make a game that is catering to the 1%ers at the top or the bottom. You can't make a game too casual, and you can't make it too hardcore. You need to aim for the 80% of players in the middle. And this is how you'll have a good game, okay? Yes, the people at the bottom would have a little bit of a hard time, starting, and the people at the top would not enjoy it as much as they would have in a game that is completely catered to them, obviously. But most people would have fun. And that's the important part when you're trying to make a successful game. You can't cater to the 1%ers, no matter who they are or where they are.
Encourage your lower level player base to log off and not play is actually good. The PvP system from the top down in this game is so fundamentally flawed that to call Ashes of Creation a PvP game is an insult to all other PvP games.
Damn.
But it does not
He hates
need to
that.
be this way. Because this game, despite all that I have said, still has the makings of one of the best MMO games ever made. And I truly believe that. I see that. And I say that with confidence. But it is being held back by fundamentally bad, structureless PvP design.
True.
And a fundamental misunderstanding of...
In my opinion, the entire game is going to suck because clearly 10 years in development and like this is what you have. You're circling around a bunch of, I don't know, like weird crystal creatures and you AoE farm them for an hour. How this is good? Like, it just doesn't look good to me, and I highly doubt they would change that. Also, the game has so many problems. We can make that into a separate video. I don't want to talk about that. I want to focus on the PvP strictly. But yeah, this game is not good. This game isn't good, and it's not going to pull many players. And the fact that they need to change every single element of the game for it to even be viable to players such as myself, who are devoted MMORPG players, is actually crazy.
How players act in these sorts of games. You could fix all the bugs in the game. You could get rid of all the bots, all the dupers, all the cheaters. You could make the leveling faster. You could do endless amounts of quality of life changes. But if your fundamental PvP design and design philosophy is flawed and does not work in reality, then your game will go nowhere. And it will join all of the other failed, dead PvP MMOs
straight to the graveyard.
From Shadowbane all the way up to the most recent Throne and Liberty. They're all in that graveyard, and they're all...
Yep, I agree. Throne and Liberty had potential, 100%. It seems to be the end of the video. By the way, insanely good video. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Guys, go right now and leave a like and a sub to this guy. Great video. I did not expect it to be this good. He was absolutely right on every single thing he said. And I pretty much just spoke everything I had on my mind. But yeah, he's absolutely right. This game has no future with its current structure. I think it's going to take them so much time to pivot, and I'm talking about years. I'm not even talking about 1 year, because they're moving at such a snail pace. It's like, I don't know what they're doing there. They're not even using an engine that belongs to them, so I don't know what takes them so long when their tools is already in front of them. You don't need to invent anything. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You have Unreal Engine 5 assets. You can use them, and even if you don't want to use like the pre-made assets, which is good, that's actually a great decision, you have the tools. The engine provides everything for you, so what's taking so long? Why the game is this bad? It's just simply for design decisions. That's it. Like, honestly, that's it. Everything about this game screams, I don't know, I want to say mediocrity, but not really. It's even lower than that. It's subpar. It's a subpar product. Yeah, it's crazy.